Hello and welcome to Chapter 4, Section 2. We're on relations and functions. And we're going to start with a little vocabulary. A relation is a set of ordered pairs written parentheses x comma y end parentheses, usually showing some kind of a pattern. And it gives us three ways that you can represent relations. A table showing x's and y's, a graph showing x's and y's, or a mapping diagram showing x's and y's. And the first thing it's going to ask you to do in check it out number 1 is express these 3 points in each of these 3 ways. Then we go on to additional vocabulary. The domain is all of the x values, and this is always the first half of the coordinates that we have. The range is the y values, that's the second half. And it does refer to the domain and range often in its questioning strategies, so please remember this vocabulary. And then you have a function. When each domain has exactly one range, that means you get an x, you apply a rule to it, and you get a y. If you get an x here and more than one y here, that means that that rule doesn't work. It doesn't have just one rule, so it's not a function. And that should get you through check it out numbers 2a and 2b on page 241. Pause the video here, do those check it outs, and come back when you're ready. So check it out number 1 has this in a table and a graph and a mapping diagram. And this is a table if I do this, and it's a mapping diagram if I do this. So there, ta-da. Number 2, the domain and the range, the domain and the range for each of 2a and 2b. The next part of this section asks us to give the domain and range of each relation, which is tell us what all the x's and the y's are, and tell us whether it's a function, and explain. Well, it's a function if each x has only one y. That's our explanation. So we have to go through and discover what their x's and y's are. So in example 3a, each of our x's has one y. This is the domain, this is the range, and it is a function. Now, these two end up with the same y, but we don't care. Let's say the function is that a bus carries 45 kids. If I have 75 kids, I need 2 buses, and if I have 68 kids, I need 2 buses, but if I have 125 kids, I need 3 buses. So, the second one, you can see how the 7 either gives us a -1 or a 0. These are our domains, but one of our domain numbers, one of our x's gives us more than one y. That means this is not a function. Each domain can only have one range. Now the circle one looks a little confusing, but what I want you to understand is that here is x equals 1, and where x equals 1, what does y equal? Well, if you're this part of the circle, y could equal negative something, and if you're this part of the circle, y could equal a positive something, which means this is not a function because our domain has more than one range. Do the check it out numbers 3a and 3b on page 242. Pause here and come back when you're ready. So for 3a, these are your domains, these are your ranges, and yes, each domain has one range, so it works. Here, these are our domains, these are our ranges, but this domain has 2 range numbers, so no, this is not a function. So your homework starts on page 243. You're doing numbers 16 through 26. Please ask me if you have any questions, and I will see you tomorrow.